Welcome to Your Family's Health, the program that focuses on healthcare issues with unique and different modalities for taking charge of your health today. Experts talk weekly with our continuing roster of guests from around the country and right here in Nassau County to keep you up to date on the latest health issues and trends. Take care of your mind, body, and soul. Spend the next half hour with the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC, and get on the journey to better health.
And we hope you're having a great day today. Hi, I am Dr. Jeanine Cook-Garard, and I am here with a nursing student, Shannon O'Shea, from the nursing department at Nassau Community College. And today our special guest is Dr. P.K. Newby. She is a scientist and gastronome and author who has been studying, teaching, and inspiring healthy and sustainable eating for 25 years. With her mantra, from farm to fork, what we eat matters. She was one of the best undiscovered cooks on ABC's The Taste, where she created globally inspired plant-based cuisine. And she is an adjunct associate professor and award-winning educator at Harvard. Her latest book, Food and Nutrition, What Everyone Needs to Know. And welcome to the show, Dr. Newby.
Oh, thank you so much. It is a great pleasure to be speaking with you today.
So Shannon has a question for you opening up.
Hi. Okay, so my question is a two-part question. So my first one is, why did you become a nutrition scientist, and how are you different from everyone else out there claiming to be a food and nutrition expert?
All righty. Well, let's tackle the first one first. Well, growing up, and by the way, I grew up in Nassau County, so it's especially a pleasure to be on your show. Yeah, I was born in Canada, but grew up in Port Washington. So thanks for having me for that reason, too. So, as a kid, I was always into food. So I grew up cooking, baking, gardening with my mom. And then I started working in the restaurant industry when I was 15, first as a busgirl, then later as a server, waitress. And I even cooked in a vegetarian cafe in college. So food has been a huge part of my life and has been my passion. So at the same time, health has been a big part of my life. So I was very active as a kid in swimming, diving, and so forth. So I knew I wanted to be a scientist. And of course, nutrition is the perfect field for me because of my love of both food and health. And that's what nutrition is. Nutrition is the study of how what we eat impacts our health and our growth, our risk of disease, and our longevity and all that good stuff. So it's really the perfect field for me. I love it.
And how are you different from everyone else that's claiming to be food and nutrition experts?
Yeah, and I think that's the big question, actually. And it's really important, and that's why, I think I appreciate you are calling me Dr. Newby, because the thing is that in today's day and age, it's almost like everyone who eats is an expert in nutrition.
Yeah.
And in addition to that, people have their own, it's a very intimate relationship with food. So people have their own takes on what impacts health. And of course, your personal experience matters, but that's not necessarily science, right? That's an anecdote. And that's a tiny piece. But the fact is that there are so many people out there giving nutrition advice. Right. And so they might have a 4-hour course in nutrition online, and then they're a nutrition coach. Personal trainers are notorious for giving out nutrition advice, usually based on pop diets. We have food bloggers talking about nutrition with no training in nutrition. And the fact is that nutrition is a science. Nutrition is a science, and it's rooted in biochemistry. And people who don't have that training really shouldn't be giving diet advice. So I'm very different from the vast majority of people out there giving advice because I have a doctorate and I also have master's degrees. So not only am I a nutrition scientist, meaning, again, studying how food impacts our health, but also I've studied how people make food choices and how those food choices impact the environment. I mean, in short, I've dedicated my life to study food from farm to fork. So, that puts me in a very different place for giving advice based on the science than pretty much anyone. Even physicians have very little training in nutrition. Everyone knows that. That's a big thing. And yet people go to their physicians for advice. Physicians oftentimes give incorrect advice. So really, it's sort of like if you're going for surgery, go to a surgeon. If you want advice on what you eat and why it matters, go to a nutrition scientist or someone with significant scientific training.
Very good. I always am amazed at just talking to the everyday individual as I am just having casual conversation. Many people find nutrition very confusing, and with this confusion, what can be done to make it very clear and simple how we should eat?
Well, clear and simple. Well, okay, definitely I would be happy to answer that, but I'd also want to talk a little bit about nutrition confusion itself, if you don't mind, because I think
Sure.
a lot of people find it confusing, but the fact is, guess what? Nutrition really isn't confusing. Nutrition science isn't confusing. It's no more confusing than any other science. Science, you have a doctorate, and it's, science inches forward. We learn, we unlearn, we solidify things, and all of that stuff. The difference is nutrition is constantly in the media, and again, we have all of these people talking about it that shouldn't be. Those and many other reasons that I discussed, when I've been going around the country, is that we live in a culture of nutrition confusion. So again, I'm not saying that people aren't confused. They should be confused because there's a din of voices, but the science is not confusing. And that's a big part of why I wrote the book. So that kind of gets, and I could talk more about why it's confusing if you want, but to get more to your question of, so how can you not be confused? You go to the right people for advice. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's a really solid message. Mm-hmm. That's why I wrote this book. It's what everyone needs to know, literally what everyone needs to know to be literate about food issues, not just about your own health, but about the serious problems we face as a planet with regards to sustainability, with regards to hunger and food insecurity around the world, everything. So this is my outreach as a scientist. I think we need more scientists participating and taking a leading role in today's conversations in order to ameliorate that food confusion. Mm-hmm. So that's really the big impetus, among others, why I wrote this book. So people should go to the right places, and you make sure, to get more into that if I can. So what else could people do when you're looking at a website? Who is the writer of that website? Are they credentialed? Mm-hmm. Who is the funder of that website? Mm-hmm. Are they trying to tell you something? Mm-hmm. Are they promising you miracle cures? There's a lot of red flags that people need to learn to go off, need to learn to react to, such that they don't get sucked into media sensationalism and junk science, essentially.
You're listening to Your Family's Health on the Voice of NASA Community College, 90.3 WHPC. I'm Dr. Jeanine Cook-Garard, and today we're speaking to our special guest, Dr. Newby, who wrote a book on food and nutrition, what everyone needs to know. So, Dr. Newby, what would you say is at the top of the list? I know that when you say from farm to fork, you're really talking about a holistic diet. What terminology do you use? What should we be eating? Give us some things that we can go out and we can go to the supermarket and shop and know that we're eating right. What do we do? Give us a list.
Yes, you buy plants, whole plants.
Okay.
Plant-based diets. Plant-based diets are best for you and best for the planet, best for your family. We've had thousands and thousands of studies, and we've had organizations around the world, including the World Health Organization, including, the government here in the U.S., showing that plant-based diets are more health-promoting and are more sustainable for the planet. So that's exactly as it sounds. People should be eating far more plants. People don't eat nearly the recommended amounts of vegetables and fruits. So that's a big part. And of course, it's not just vegetables and fruits. It's whole grains. It's beans and legumes. Beans and legumes is an amazing source of protein. Soy, a complete protein. There's so many choices, and the world is getting better in terms of the realm of delicious plant-based choices. So that is the simplest piece of advice. And do you need to become a vegetarian or vegan? Well, if you like, sure, that probably won't work for people. So the point is, the more you can swap in plant-based foods, the better. And I could give you more tips on that if you want a little more clarity.
Yeah. I'm thinking in terms of when you say plant-based diet that you're thinking more organic vegetables versus regular vegetables that we can purchase in the supermarket, where there is and there has been a scare of pesticides on the vegetables. Are you talking more organic based?
No, actually I'm not, but there's a reason. But let me tell you why, or I should say yes and no. So here's the thing, and I discuss this in the book, of course, this and so many other issues. for people who can afford organic produce. That is amazing, and please do that. Why? Not because it's likely better for your health or because it's more nutritious. That's really not founded in science at all. And pesticide contamination from foods is likely very, very minimal at best, unless you're a farmer who grows that food. Mm-hmm. So actually, this is a good question where the people are sort of focused on the wrong things. We know that people who have a high exposure to pesticides, constantly working with them, have higher risk of cancer, respiratory illnesses, neurological effects because the poison that's in the dose, because they're constantly exposed to it. That's who people should be worried about, not themselves, because they're never going to get a dose that's going to be a problem for their health. Mm-hmm. So this is important because if people, I think the message to only eat organic is not at all sensitive to people for whom that isn't a possibility financially. And the big message, even from people concerned about pesticides, and I'm not saying there isn't occasionally a reason, but you have someone like the Environmental Working Group that talks about, lists of the clean 15 and the dirty dozen, for example, saying what you should buy and what you shouldn't buy. But guess what's lost in their major messaging is eat more, because the benefits you're going to get from vegetables and fruits of all kinds are going to outweigh any risks from, let's say, pesticides. Mm-hmm. That's just, we know that from the science. Mm-hmm. So again, another reason you should buy organic is because we know it's better for the environment. We know it protects the soil. We know those people investing and using organic methods and other agroecological methods, which is what they're called in ecology and in sustainable agriculture, is better for the earth and better for the planet. So you see, there are very, very good reasons to buy organic for those that you can, but pesticides, exposure to them is not the main reason. And again, eating more is key. And canned and frozen can be part, whether they're organic or conventional, can be part of a diet too. Having some frozen vegetables on hand is one of the easiest ways to get your veggies in, and it's inexpensive. And even canned, they tend to not be quite as good or maybe not as tasty as your wonderful farmers market selections. But if they're low sodium, no salt, and they're there on hand for you and make it easier for you and your family to eat more vegetables and fruits, I'm all for any of those solutions.
So, Dr. Newby, just speaking to the listening audience, when you're talking about selecting your plant-based diet or your vegetables, would you choose the frozen over the canned vegetables?
Well, I would, because they tend to be a little bit less processed, mm-hmm. and they tend to often not have salt included in them, right? Whereas, but I don't like to make, I really don't think it's necessarily helpful, and all due respect to, I know what you're saying, because people are different and they have different lifestyles, mm-hmm. right? So I think that, sure, frozen tends to be better, but not necessarily. You can have, let's think about canned tomatoes. Canned tomatoes are godsend, right? Those are canned, and you should get them. They're going to help you get in your lycopene, which is a valuable component of that found in tomatoes, and there's actually a higher amount in canned tomatoes than there is in fresh. So, there's plenty of examples where your canned vegetables are going to be just terrific, and they don't come in frozen. The key is reading the ingredients, right? There's no surefire. So it's kind of like if something has added sugar, added fats, added salt, anything like that, then you want to take pause, whether it's frozen or whether it's canned. And that's why, obviously, if you buy whole vegetables and fruits, you don't need to worry about them. You don't need to work so hard.
So I'm thinking reading the labels is key. Being able to read the back of that can to see how many nitrate, how much sodium is in the can, or added sugars and any additives, right, that would be beneficial for canned vegetables or anything that you're consuming. Would you agree to that?
I'm concerned about salt and sugar. Yeah. Preservatives have been used for millennia to preserve food. So salt is often used as a preservative. Anyone who does home cooking, home canning mm-hmm. knows that. So it's not evil in and of itself, and plenty of additives are there just to keep food on our safe and our food supply at the supermarket. Mm-hmm. My concern is sodium, because we know that's a risk for hypertension and heart disease. Mm-hmm. So people, all they need to do is look at ingredients or look at the front of the can, because usually ones that are not don't have salt say no sodium added or low salt or no salt. They don't even need to work that hard to look at the nutrition facts panel, although they could if they want. right? You know, it's such a big market for it now. You just look at I do this myself every time. I know which ones it is now, of course, but I look at canned tomatoes and it says I choose ones that have no salt added. There, simple, done, you know, and I don't choose things that have